Years ago, I put up a profile on Match.com, probably the world's biggest dating website, because single guy, and I heard it was a good way to meet people. So I put up my profile. Here I am. I'm Dave Moore. Here's my picture. Here's what I do. Here's where I'm from. And pretty soon, I start getting results. I start getting these messages. So some places call them flirts or winks or likes, but I started getting them from women on Match.com, and I thought, man, this is working out. Young women, half my age. Some of them look like Playboy models. And I'm thinking, well, so the old man still got it going on, right? No. That train of thought didn't last very long, because I knew that fake profiles on dating websites have been used for years by the bad guys to lure people in and scam them. So reality took hold, and I had to conclude that the likelihood that any of these messages were actually coming from young old man likers. So that possibility was very slim. So I decided to do a test. Research and investigations is a big part of what I do. So I put up a fake profile on Match.com, and I put up a fake profile on Facebook. And this was my profile picture. I put up my fake profile. I said my name was Toshiro Mifune, and this is actually a picture of Toshiro Mifune, one of Japan's greatest movie stars. So there was my profile picture. I said I was 90 years old, and that's all I said. No more information. And guess what? It got worse. I'm getting messages from all of these young Hollywood models, and they're saying things like, wow, you sound like a really cool guy. We should get together and talk, you know. Right. Because of that evidence, I concluded that they had not read or even looked at my profile. In fact, I theorized that they probably weren't even young Hollywood models at all, but were in fact truck drivers from Chechnya. The sad part of it is that even though it may seem ridiculous, it may sound far-fetched, it's not. Dating scams are a big part of an effective part of the internet scam industry, run by professional career criminals, and they make lots of money doing it. So, what's your risk appetite? It's you to the rescue, because sometimes you're the only person who can rescue you, or maybe you'll rescue someone else. In the cybersecurity world, we use a term, and it's called risk appetite. Just how much risk are you willing to take on? How much can you choke down? I mean, look at how much risk Mario Batali's willing to take on. Man, that's crazy. What is your risk appetite? How much risk are you willing to take before something bad happens? How much risk can you eat before you get clogged arteries or a heart attack or a stroke? Can you believe people do that? That's disgusting. And this guy cracks me up. He's like, hey man, look at my face. I'm so cool. Yeah, you're cool, all right. But you know what's even more disgusting is Colonial Pipeline. Hacked over a crummy password. That was just this year, just a few months ago. Remember Colonial Pipeline, the biggest pipeline in the United States? They were hacked because someone was using the same password for multiple accounts. And they were using obsolete VPN software that they weren't supposed to be using. And there was no multi-factor authentication. Hacked over a crummy password. How about the city of Tulsa? This was just a few months ago. The city of Tulsa gets hacked because of a lack of training, basically. Somebody somewhere clicked on a link in a scammy email, and all of a sudden, all the files on the Tulsa network are encrypted and being held hostage by the bad guys. An untrained employee couldn't tell the difference between a scam email and a real email. Did you know that all 6 Lucky Star casinos were shut down this year? This was just a few months ago because of a ransomware attack. Now we're talking big money. How about the city of Okemah? Yes, the sweet little city of Okemah, Oklahoma, birthplace of Woody Guthrie. Population 3,178. You know, some folks like to think, we don't need to worry about this cybersecurity stuff. We're small. We're a small company over here. We're little. We've only got a few people. The bad guys won't go after us. We're small. Well, they went after the city of Okemah to the tune of $14,000. The Okemah is a member of what's called the Oklahoma Municipal Assurance Group, which is an outfit that deals in insurance policies for Oklahoma entities. And their experts concluded, we don't know how to get around this hack. And I'm not surprised. Ransomware attack, you're usually never going to get around it. And so they recommended that the city pay the ransom. In fact, the city council even authorized the city manager to make the payment. Is that legal? You know, a lot of law enforcement agencies are now classifying ransomware attacks as acts of terrorism, and the people that perpetrate them as terrorists. So if you pay the ransom, are you aiding and abetting a terrorist cause? Something to think about. All of these attacks were preventable. They could have been stopped. There were no mega super genius hackers breaking into highly secure networks and all that kind of stuff. Nope. These hacks, and I would say most of the hacks that we hear about in the news, are nothing more than garden variety con artist jobs. Just con artist trickery. They happen because people had not been taught how to tell right from wrong. And here we are. We have a very serious situation on our hands. It's as if most people driving cars today don't know that the steering wheel is one of the most important parts of the car. The majority of the people using the internet don't know how to be safe on the internet. That's the sad truth of it. They just don't know what the heck they're doing. Now they're trying to do the best they can, clicking around willy-nilly, trying to figure things out, clicking on who the heck knows what they're clicking on. But they don't really know how any of this works. They don't know what a browser is. They don't know what a network is. They sure don't know what the internet is. You know why that is? It's not because they're stupid or they're too old to get it. I work for a lot of very educated people, brainiacs, high-end PhDs, and they're falling for phishing scams and identity theft the same as people who barely made it out of high school. It's because nobody ever taught them how to be safe on the internet. Nobody. Internet safety training and education for the general public is virtually non-existent. What should be just another part of general life education, like how to read and write, simply isn't there. Many people can follow instructions if they just know what the instructions are, but nobody's ever taught people what the instructions for the internet are. I believe we've made a big mistake in our approach to internet safety and security awareness training, in that we've only focused on 3 groups. Group 1, little school kids, which is great, except that they're going to forget all about that stuff by the time they grow up, and it won't be relevant anymore because technology changes so much. Group 2, enterprise class corporate employees. And Group 3, government agencies. Well, that's great, except what about everyone else? That leaves out the majority of the population. What about everyone else? Why is no one reaching out to the people who are being actively exploited today? Not in the future after they grow up, but now. Losing countless millions of dollars every day to internet crooks. Adults, everyday adults, mom and pop computer users, the aging population, small and medium-sized business owners and employees, lawyers. These are the people who are being actively exploited today, now. The goal here to be achieved is to create an internet safety-aware culture. We can't just focus on government agencies and big corporations. We need to raise the internet safety awareness level of the whole population in order to achieve lasting change. Think about it. Internet safety training for mechanics, internet safety training for carpenters, for power plant managers, for salespeople, internet safety training for attorneys. Where's that class? Well, I've got one, but I have to ask the question, How many attorneys in this room are part of an ongoing formal internet safety training program? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe? Yeah. Well, brace yourself because it's coming. It's already a requirement in New York and Florida, compulsory cybersecurity training for attorneys. It's coming, so you might want to get out ahead of that one because it's no longer okay to not know how the internet works. I was asked to speak at a local business association where there were about 40 or 50 prominent business leaders present, CEOs, bank presidents, doctors, lawyers, and we had a discussion about risk. At the end of the discussion, I asked a question. How many of you here use online banking? Everyone raises their hand. I said, how many people here have ever had any internet safety or cybersecurity online training? The room gets real quiet. And finally, one hand goes up. One. These are people controlling countless millions of dollars in our economy. People doing online banking. People controlling thousands of jobs, and only one person out of the entire group of big shot business people had ever had any internet safety training. Internet safety is not an IT problem. It's not something you can just shove off on an IT department somewhere and go, yeah, we're safe, we got an IT department. It comes down to the individual. It's a people problem, and it's a business problem. So what's the answer? What do we do? Well, the first answer is, of course, education and training. We need to learn internet safety and take it seriously, at least as seriously as we do any other kind of safety. I believe the second answer is us, the people in this room, leaders, decision makers, small business owners, large business owners, government agency leaders, advocates and counselors, the people we work with and know. It's you to the rescue. It's all of us to the rescue. If we learn what's going on and what to do about it and start to look out for each other, we will achieve the kind of change that needs to happen. When people in your circle of influence see you advocating for internet safety, they'll start to take it seriously too. You know, I teach classes on subjects like this to businesses and civic groups and libraries, all sorts of groups. Here's one we did in Norman. It was packed. Our presentations are always packed. People are hungry for good information. And sometimes people, especially news people, like to ask me, Dave, what's the one thing that somebody can do to stay safe? And I say, well, if I'm limited to one thing, it would be, I would say, take your damn computer and throw it in the trash. But there's not just one thing you can do to stay safe. There are at least 12 that I work with people on. It's a 12-step program. In our classes, we look at 12 different areas we all need to understand in order to stay safe on the internet. We look at updates, passwords, antivirus, how to spot fake websites, how to avoid scams, all sorts of stuff. It's actually easy and fun learning how to beat the internet bad guys. And this is the minimum amount that you and your staff should know, and it will cover you in about 90% of the situations out there. But if 12 things are too many for you, how about 24 things? Here's 24 things that Arctic Wolf decided to put on their legal cybersecurity checklist, and many of these items have multiple subsections. There's a lot to keep up with, and nobody expects every attorney to know all of this stuff. But somebody in your organization needs to be paying attention to these items and be in charge of them. Doing all these things correctly is not something you can cover in a 45-minute talk or throw together in a few hours on an afternoon and go, hey, there, look, we're all safe. Set it and forget it. Have you read Opinion 43? It discusses an attorney's duty after being hacked. It's pretty good reading. Cybersecurity people have to consider all kinds of things when trying to help a business or an individual to stay safe, and it usually starts with what's called a business continuity plan. Can your business even continue if you suffer an attack? How long will you be able to continue? Then you move on to things like security policies and cybersecurity risk management. One of the tools we use, and again, insurance people use these all the time, it's called a risk assessment matrix. And over on the left side, you've got the probability. What's the likelihood that something bad could happen? Well, is it high, medium, or low? And then on the top, you have the impact. What are the consequences to me or my business if we have a cybersecurity attack? Here's a more complex one that the Department of Defense invented and still uses. Over on the left-hand side, you've got probability. What is the probability that something bad's going to happen here? Is it remote or is it frequent? And then what's the severity? What are the consequences that can happen? Are they serious or are they catastrophic? What happens if something like Amazon Web Services go down, which happened just a couple of days ago for the entire eastern part of the United States? Amazon Web Services goes down on Pearl Harbor Day. Coincidence? I don't know. They won't even talk about what really happened. If those services go down, what will it do to your business? It crippled thousands of businesses for the better part of the day. So you look at these different areas and you assess them, like communications, customer records, utilities, a whole bunch of different areas. Like, if hackers took down your network, how long could you go without communications? No phones, no internet, no TV, no radio. Could you last for an hour? Could you last for a day? How about a week? How about customer records, your customer database? I personally know companies that if they lost their customer database right now, they'd be done. Lock the doors and go home and don't ever come back. They're finished. And they don't have backups of them. Come on, but how long could you go? They couldn't go for 5 minutes. What if essential employees and executives couldn't show up, couldn't make it to the office? How long could you keep going? So, we also look at things called safeguards, which are ways to diminish risk, kind of like how seatbelts and airbags diminish what could happen to our bodies if we're in a car wreck. So, here's the threat, the giant falling anvil. There's our asset, Wile E. Coyote. And there's the safeguard he has deployed, the tiny umbrella. Given the law of gravity, the probability that the anvil will fall on the asset is high. Should the anvil fall on the asset, the likelihood the asset will suffer catastrophic damage is also high. Even though a safeguard has been deployed, it is so puny compared to the magnitude of the threat that the diminishment of risk in this situation would be negligible. And so some people, when we're talking about these things, they go, Dave, is it even safe to be on the internet? Good question. First time I heard that question, I thought for a minute, and I thought, let's put it in another context. Is it safe to drive down I-35? We do it all the time, but is it safe? What's our risk appetite? Because things happen on I-35. Bad things happen on I-35. In fact, it would be fair to conclude that it is not safe to drive down I-35, but we do it all the time. In fact, in Texas considers I-35 to be their most dangerous highway. So what's your risk appetite for driving down the highway, and how does risk increase? And to look at things like this, you establish what's called a baseline. And so I came up with a baseline for I-35, which is good weather, there are no drunk drivers running around, good visibility, no congestion. That's about as good as it gets on I-35. So what are things that would increase risk? Well, what if it's rush hour? This morning, I drove here in rush hour, and it's raining, okay? And it's rush hour. And there's this giant rainbow that appears right in front of the highway, and everybody's trying to drive and check out this rainbow at the same time, taking pictures of it with their phone while they're driving in rush hour. That increases risk. What if there's road construction? All of a sudden, the highways you're used to are not the same anymore. You're being diverted off somewhere else. That increases risk. What if it's nighttime? Limited visibility increases risk. Rainy weather increases risk. Now you can't see as well, and the roads are getting a little slick. What if there's flooding? Boy, we sure have flooding in Oklahoma sometimes. Look at this picture. Northwest 23rd and Villa in Oklahoma City, and you can see what happened there. There gets to be a little flooding, water comes up, people are like, oh, I can make that. Look, that big truck just drove right through it, I'm going. Well, then they discover they're not going, they're stuck. And the water keeps getting higher and higher. Oh, man. And you know, it's not like we haven't been told about these things, because we have. Shoot, the weather people are always telling us, turn around, don't drown, don't drive into the flood water. What are you, crazy? You know what some people do? They go, it's not so bad. We can make it.
Here goes a car. Here it goes, right here. I told you, here goes a car. Look how deep that water is, guys. Yep, and that's that. And he's done. He's done. Yep.
In Oklahoma had to move quickly to save the driver of this SUV. Heavy rain caused flooding around the state, especially near rivers and lakes. This SUV got stuck in the water near Ski Island Lake in Oklahoma City. 2 rescuers were able to reach the car in a raft and pull the driver to safety.
Man, that's getting serious. What if there's snow and ice on the roads? I've actually been that guy on the left, slid off to the side, trying to get back up there. What's really bad is you're trying to do it and there's a cop sitting there looking at you. Increased risk. Snow, a very increased risk. You might just look out and go, you know, I'm not taking that risk today. What if there are beginning drivers on the road? They don't even know how to drive. They're taking lessons to figure out how to drive. Did you know that there's a large portion of the driving population that is self-taught? Yeah, they've never had any driver's education. They've never had any lessons. Everything they know about driving, they picked up from friends and relatives and TV. What if there are drunk drivers on the road? That increases risk. What if there are stoned drivers on the road? That increases risk. And so you take all these different areas and you put them together, because sometimes many of them are happening at the same time. And you go, okay, am I going to drive or not? What if there are dogs driving? I mean, dogs ain't that bright. What if there are OSU graduates out driving around? I mean, come on. Talk about risk. Well, you know, I mean, I'm from Norman, and we love OSU and Norman. We really do. We just don't like it when you're beating us at football. God. So how much risk are you willing to take? And you have to look at unlikely events, too. They have to be considered. Such as, if you've ever been to the Oklahoma Aquarium up by Tulsa, it's a really cool place. It is a great afternoon to spend looking at everything there. And they have this tunnel that you walk down. You are surrounded by 3.4 million pounds of water and deadly sharks. So all that separates you from the 3.4 million pounds of water and the deadly sharks is 4 inches of an acrylic dome, okay? Now, granted, the likelihood that that dome is going to fail is very small, but you can't say it's never happened, because it has happened. It happened in Shanghai at this aquarium. Look at it, here it comes. Whoa, here it comes, and the deadly sharks. And they had 6 inches of acrylic protecting them, so you can't say it's never happened. So you got to look at things, even though the likelihood is low. And so you go, okay, the shark tunnel collapsed. The probability that it's going to collapse is remote. But the severity of what can happen if it does collapse is catastrophic. And that puts that risk in the serious category, but your remediation priority is going to be low, because what are we going to do to keep the tunnel from collapsing? Nothing. Okay. On the other hand, a phishing email or a ransomware scam, the probability that somebody's going to click on that link in that bogus email, it's probable. The severity to you or your company, if it happens, can be catastrophic. So that puts that risk in the high category, and you are going to have remediation measures you will take. You are going to try and stop the possibility of that happening. What's another one? Driving on snow and ice. What's the likelihood that you're going to drive on snow and ice? It's occasional. It's probable. What's the severity if something goes wrong? It's catastrophic or critical. So that's a high risk. How about using a crummy password? The probability that someone's going to use a crummy password, it's probable. It's occasional. What are the consequences if something goes south because of that? Catastrophic. That puts that risk in the high category. And remediation priority is going to be high because you will do things to make sure that that sort of thing doesn't happen. So here's something a lot of business owners don't think about. Who is ultimately held responsible for taking a risk that allows a cybersecurity hack? Not the IT department. They're doing the best they can. They're doing what they're allowed to do, basically. Not the security staff. They're doing the same thing. They're doing what they're allowed to do. Not the employees. Nobody's ever told them not to click on fake links and bogus emails. Who's ultimately responsible? The board of directors. That's right. Sure, CEOs and presidents can get in trouble too, but it ultimately goes down to the board of directors. So, from the 12 things to do, we're going to look at one module here in some detail, passwords and multi-factor authentication. And it never ceases to befuddle me how some people are so bothered at the idea of using a good password. I've seen people just throw fits, go completely off the hook at the idea that they should expend a few seconds of their precious time using a good password. It just blows their mind. But why do we even have passwords? Well, it's because they unlock our online accounts. And just like the locks on the front of your house, you can have easy locks and keys, and you can have complex locks and keys. And so which password do you want on the front of your house? The $6 barrel bolt lock from Ace Hardware or the not $6 lock? And we've probably all heard some of these things to use in your password. Uppercase, lowercase, numbers, special characters, sure. But keep this in mind. The bad guys are not sitting around trying to guess your password. It's just not like it is in the movies and on TV. They're not sitting around, they're going, well, let's see, maybe his password is his daughter's birthday. No, that's not it. Maybe his password is his dog's name. Nope, that's not it. Maybe his password is his birthday. Nope, that's not what they're doing. The bad guys aren't sitting around trying to guess passwords. They use computers to guess passwords, and they're very fast at it, and they're very good at it. Your passwords should never, ever simply be a word. Your password should never just be a word, and I'm going to show you why. So let's see, we're going to bail out of this, minimize that. And over here, here's a program called Kane. And it's a password cracking program. A password cracking program. It's free. I downloaded it off the internet. There are lots of password cracking programs on the internet that you can download and use. IT departments use them frequently to see if employees are using good passwords. And the bad guys use them too. So there's Kane, our password cracker. And over here is Windows Live Mail. It's an email program. A lot of people still use it. Windows Live Mail. So I'm going to give my email account a password. So I'm going to go up here to File and Options and Email Accounts and pick that account that I made and go to Properties and Servers. And there's where I get to give my email account a password. So what should I use? How about Podium? Okay. Oh, and I'm going to use a capital P. So P-O-D-I-U-M, is that right? Oh, and I'll put 123 at the end. Yeah, 123. There. Now my email has a password. So I'm going to apply that, say okay, close that. Now let's go back to our password cracking program. And I've never even read the instructions on how to use this program. I just installed it and I looked at it and I went, over on the left side, look at all this interesting stuff, all these different types of passwords I can mess around with. Huh, interesting. There's one that says Windows mail passwords. Perfect. And it says up here, press the plus button on the toolbar to dump the Windows mail passwords. Now, you IT nerds out here will have noticed by now that I'm doing this on what's called a local machine. It's this computer right here, but it applies anywhere. If you can get access on a network and access to computers on a network, you can start running password crackers and see what's going on. So, but I'm going to follow the instructions here. Press the plus button. So I do, and there it is. There's my password right there. Podium123. How long did that take? Half a second? 1/100 of a second? That's why bad guys use computers to crack passwords. They don't sit around guessing them. Now, why did that work? Why did that work? Well, let's get back to our presentation here. So back to the PowerPoint from that slide. Why did that work? Well, because one of the first things the bad guys will do if they're trying to discover a password, they'll run what's called a dictionary attack. They will go through every word in every language in every dictionary on earth to see if there's a match. And they'll do it a lot faster than this. It's so fast that it's just a blur. You can't even tell that there are words going by. Every word in every dictionary in every language on earth to see if there's a match. And they'll try variations. They'll try things like put 1, 2, 3 at the end, because that's what people do. You know why people put 1, 2, 3 at the end? Because they've been told they have to put a number in there, and they go, oh, okay, 1, 2, 3, there's your stupid number. The bad guys know this. They know human behavior. Now, let's look at some other things too. So I started playing around with passwords many years ago just to experiment and see what's going on. And some of the advice we got back in the old days is not true anymore. It might have been true then, but it's not true now. But here's a password I came up with, and I based it on a phrase that I could remember. It's great to teach classes at the library and be safe! Exclamation point. The thing that we've been taught incorrectly in the past is that our passwords need to just be a jumble of gibberish, nonsense. That's not it. The strength of a password depends on how long it is. It needs to be long, okay? Complex passwords are good, but long passwords is where it's at. So I came up with this one, because you can use what are called passphrases. You can actually have words in your passphrase, but they shouldn't make sense. Like you don't want to use Mary had a little lamb or I love Sooner football. I assure you that one is taken. And spaces count too. So here I've got one, 83, I love purple fishing. And I could memorize that if I needed to. And spaces count too in most places. The spaces count as characters. So I've got 25 characters there. So I started testing them, okay? And here's a website you can visit, howsecureismypassword.net. And you can try out your passwords, and it'll tell you if they're any good or not. howsecureismypassword.net. And so I started testing passwords. Here's one. It's good to teach classes at the library, but it's classified as weak. Well, I've got uppercase and lowercase. I've got numbers and special characters. What's the problem? It's too short. It's only 8 characters long. That is a weak password. Here's the other one that I tested, the 12-character one. Now we're getting somewhere. We're getting into the strong category, okay? But the best one out of the whole bunch, 83, I love purple fishing 12. That was classified as the best password out of the whole bunch. Long passwords is where it's at. Another thing, don't use the same password for more than one account, because if the bad guys get your email password and it's the same as your bank password, well, guess what else they have now? They've got your bank password. How many people play Words with Friends? I do. It's a fun game. But it was hacked recently. 200 million accounts and their passwords were stolen. So if your Words with Friends password is the same as your email password, well, guess what the bad guys have now too? So that's why we want to change our passwords, okay? Look at that. T-Mobile, 40 million people exposed, their records, their passwords. That was this year. That was in August. Look at the, on the other side, 60 million records from Fitbit, Apple, Google. That was this year also. You want to change your passwords often, at least once a year. Twice a year is not too much. I go for every 90 days. If you're in the military, some branches require you to change it even more often than that. The reason is simple. Because the internet bad guys have stolen so many millions and billions of accounts, the idea is you change your password before they can get to yours. And now all of a sudden, they don't have your password because you changed it. That's the why. And stop worrying about having to memorize your passwords, because you don't. You don't have to memorize your passwords. Don't let that be a stumbling block to making good passwords. Write them down on a piece of paper and hide it in your house. Put it in the Da Vinci Code where you have to hold it up to a mirror to read it. I write mine down, and I do it in a way to, even if somebody saw it, they wouldn't know what they were looking at. You can also use computer programs to help you, like password management programs. This one is Dashlane. It's the one that I teach about in our classes because the free version works great. It's easy to set up. It's easy to use. What happens is it installs as a browser plugin, and when you visit a website to sign in and you put your stuff in, Dashlane pops up and says, "Do you want to remember this?" You say yes. Now the next time you go there, everything's already filled out. It's great. So, you don't have to memorize your passwords. Now, the other big thing, and this is becoming bigger every day, is authentication, which is the process by which you prove that you are authentic, that you are bona fide, that you are who you say you are. And there are these things called authentication factors. Knowledge, something you know. Possession, something you have. Inherent, something that you are. Location and time. Where are you and when are you there? These are called factors. There are others, but these are the major authentication factors that we use, such as knowledge, a password or a PIN number. Something you have, like a credit card or a smartphone. Inherent, something that you are, like a fingerprint or a retina scan. And then location and time. Where are you and exactly when are you? These are authentication factors. For years and years and years, all we ever used was one factor, and that was a password. Well, the bad guys have caught on to that one long ago. They have hacked that one up one side and down the other so much, it's ridiculous. So, pretty much everybody's kind of been moving to what's called two-factor or multi-factor authentication, where you have to have two factors provided. You go to your website, you sign in, and then they text you a code on your phone. They send you a text message. You look at the code, you type it in, you're in. Now you got two factors involved. Well, unfortunately, the bad guys have caught on to that one too. Did you know that text messaging is not encrypted? Nope, it's not. It's in plain text. And text messages can be intercepted and read easily. So, that method has been hacked because the bad guys have figured out ways around it. Remember, Colonial Pipeline? Hacked because they had no multi-factor authentication going. So it was easy for the bad guys. Now, there are different ways to do this. One of them is called an authentication app. And it's an app that you download on your phone, and it turns it into a smart token, is what it's called. There are also smart tokens you can get, which kind of look like a flash drive. But I found there are too many places where they don't work. And so that's not what I recommend to most of the people that I teach these classes to. But this I do, authentication apps. And there are a couple out there. Microsoft has one, Google has one. This is my favorite, Authy. One app for all of your accounts. Works great. Once you've done it a couple of times and you've set it up, you're like, this is so easy. Why haven't I been doing this for years? But what happens is you go to your website you want to sign in on, you put in your username and your password, and then the Authy app on your phone generates a code. And all the communications are encrypted. You put in the code, you get access to your account. It's awesome. This is the modern way to do things. So time to get with it. Keep in mind that safety is not a technology or a product that you can buy and install and bada bing, bada bang, now we're all safe. I got antivirus, hey, I'm safe. Safety is taught and it is learned and it's developed because in spite of all of our awesome technology we have, secure passwords, multi-factor authentication, those things can still fail because of a simple con artist trick. And here's how one of them works. A crook knows your name, phone number, and bank name. That's all the information they need to make this work. And they send you a text using what's called caller ID spoofing. Caller ID spoofing is, I can call you, and when you look at your phone, I can make any phone number I want to appear there. It could look like the White House is calling you. So, the bad guy sends the victim a fake text. It looks like it's from their bank. There's their phone number. It says the bank name. And the text says something like, unusual activity has been detected. $5,000 charge. Reply if it was not you. And so the victim replies. Now the crook actually calls the victim on the phone. And it looks like it's the bank calling. There it is, my bank's calling me. And he says he's with the fraud department. And he asks the victim to verify their username. And of course the victim does. All right? While all this is happening, the crook is sitting there on his computer and he's at the bank's website and he puts in the username that the victim just told him. And then he clicks the I forgot my password link. Well, the bank, the real bank, sends another text to the victim with the temporary password in it, okay? And then the crook, they're on the phone the whole time. The crook says, okay, go ahead and tell me that code that we just sent you so we can verify. And of course, they give him the code. And then the crook says, okay, well, your account's all safe now. Everything's fixed. You're all safe and secure. Have a nice day. Then the crook goes right ahead and signs on into the account using the temporary code, changes it to his own password, gets rid of all the fraud alerts, changes everything he can, and takes control. And at that point, the bad guy can start moving money into his own account and disappear. So, and now for something completely different.
Nice. All right, first order of business. Create a login for the shared company drive.
Knock, knock, knock. Hello. Just checking in on my new report. Are you finding everything okay?
Yep.
Creating the new login ID. You know, I know that can drag on, so if you get stuck at all, you can always just use mine. No spaces, no apostrophe, no apologies.
You printed your password on a mug?
No, even better. I got it off the mug I already had, hiding in plain sight. I always use the same passwords for everything. Better safe than sorry. Hello again. I see you have not yet logged in. I don't want to spend too much time on process. So here is a list of all of the company passwords in one handy sheet, which I have made.
Dave, you cannot do that.
Oh, Sid, with the security. There's just too many passwords to remember. Besides, who's going to try to steal our stuff? We're not the Pentagon, right? Mm-hmm. Great. Great.
Great.
Great.
Great. 3 greats in one day. It's great.
So multi-factor authentication with a long, random, memorable password?
Yep. And a password manager to take care of these.
Got it. Got it.
The matter is, we need to do a better job of protecting ourselves. You know, The most popular password in the United States is password 123. And as long as that's the case, we're vulnerable. So today we sent a camera out on Hollywood Boulevard to help people by asking them to tell us their password. And this is how that went.
We're talking about cybersecurity today and how safe people's passwords are. What is one of your online passwords currently?
It is my dog's name and the year I graduated from high school.
Oh, what kind of dog do you have?
I have a Chihuahua Papillon.
And what's its name?
Jameson.
Jameson. And where'd you go to school?
I went to school back in Greensburg, Pennsylvania.
What school?
Hempfield Area Senior High School.
Oh, when did you graduate?
In 2009.
Oh, great.
It's like my cat's name and then just like a random number.
Okay. Have you had this cat for a while?
Yeah, she's my childhood pet.
Aw. And what's her name?
Her name is Jolie.
Jolie. So like a password of yours would be Jolie and then a number.
Yeah.
Like number 1?
Like my birthday.
Oh, when is your birthday?
June 12th.
Oh, nice. And what year were you born?
95.
Oh, great. So Jolie, 6/12/95.
Yes.
Got it.
So you mean to give my password right now? No, I cannot do that.
But we all want to know what it is so we can tell you if it's strong or not.
Oh my goodness. Let me think. Okay, one is Tel Aviv. Yeah. 468, and then Israel. It's only 3, but it's for me it's strong enough.
Ireland 1 2 3 4. Gemma 1 2 3. Spelled Gemma.
Well, most of them are Italian.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
Like
so
what? Like what's a good Italian password?
My grandma's name.
What's your grandma's name?
Maria.
Maria. So Maria is your password?
Oh yeah, now you know my password. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, the important thing is they
Learned an important lesson there. Well, that's about all we're going to have time for today. It has been my honor to speak before you. And call me. Let's do some more. There's my phone number, 919-9901. There's my email address, dave@internetsafetygroup.org. The website is internetsafetygroup.org. And call us. Let's do some more. Thank you very much. Have a great day.